Good morning, everybody. I didn't get a chance to talk with Mary Simon's office yet, as a lot of other things came up. I put it out there about independence and my claim for other countries around the world. Well, USA, the state of Texas, bites, so I've tagged you, Richard Albert, in this as well too, as that is your state. So House member Kyle Bjorkman, who's been vocal for Texas independence, is now doing a petition across Texas in his community. They're bringing it forward for the state election in 2022. They want to see if Texans, just like Jason Kenney did his referendum on equalization, the same sort of idea is being brought forward for 2022 in the state of Texas for Texit. Kyle Bjorkman uses that term, but he's actually, they've worked with me more than anybody else. That's a fact. Many countries around the world, at least a small handful have, and we've seen the results of declarations of independence. Texas has their constitution, and they're looking at old law of how Texas could leave the Union just with the petition of the people. I don't believe that's true. I don't think legally where the U.S. has gone in 1945. I'm going to share all of that with the state of Texas, and I've tagged you, Richard Albert, as well as I want to talk about First Nations. Richard Albert, you put out a Twitter tweet on Indigenous and constitutions, 18 of them, that have incorporated sovereignty of Indigenous people. You didn't list the United States of America. This is where law, political science, and other issues come together. I can easily find in the Constitution of the United States of America where it's made very, very possible for not only self-determination of the American Indians, but also self-government and absolute settlement of claims. That's throughout the American Constitution. When you take into account the constitutional powers, division of powers, and the actual legal definitions in American Webster Dictionary of the government positions afforded to both the federal government and absolutely individual states who are codified, Richard, regionally, and the subsequent definitions of those powers of the state government that the federal government recognizes. And this in conjunction with absolutely international law bound by the United States of America, not necessarily recognized by the regions, but it doesn't really matter because USA federally is a UNSC member, and they can certainly impose onto their states, and they will even do that, as history shows, through absolute war, civil war in fact. Now, I don't see that happening. I see a lot of problems with the executive. We've seen that with both Donald Trump, everybody, and Joe Biden in record time of both administrations. They went at breaching the Constitution of the United States. And of course they lost, which is a good thing, everybody. Regardless of what people think, that is a good thing. It shows a strong, independent judiciary that is not afforded to either Democrat or Republican. And whether people like that or not, that's the power of the people. It's a great thing. So now Kyle Bjorkman's bringing that forward. It's funny, I made my post yesterday on Ukraine and Russia, other countries, and I said I wasn't going to list that country. Well, Kyle Bjorkman obviously saw my video, and Kyle Bjorkman fired up today on social media, so of course I answered. Again, he's got my email, phone number. We're going to go through the international side of it, the legal path to independence, to add to their narrative. So what's going to happen here, ladies and gentlemen, come 2022, we have USA big corporate media actually favoring the left side, going with the narrative that Russia is building up secretly to attack Ukraine. And that may very well be possible. But is it illegal? And I argue that no, it's not. In fact, it's USA's fault that this has happened to begin with. And in fact, it's USA's fault 4 regions of the former Soviet Union are in such dire straits today, including the Russian Federation in dire straits today. Putin's going all through it. I've sent lots to all of the P5 so everybody knows everything I do goes to all 5 members of the P5. So USA is not left out of anything I share with Russia and vice versa, as well as UK, France, and China. I do that to be absolutely fair to all 5, so I never put myself in a position to receive a veto. It's all I can do. That's international law as it really is. Whether they like me or hate me, so far it doesn't seem like anyone hates me. But the reality is, for the United States of America, what they did with Ukraine under George H. Bush, Republican president, was illegal with Ukraine. And now because of that, if Russia invades, I don't know what argument USA is going to use, especially with 1/10 of their population and a mighty input of their primary GDP coming from the state of Texas. 10% population and much more in GDP is no laughing matter. Texas produces $1 trillion economy. More than $1 trillion. They're stronger than Canada. They're almost as populated as much as Canada, about 78% that of Canada. And they produce much more. They don't have a whopping state deficit. They hardly have any deficit, none whatsoever. Unlike Canada and Canada's regions, you won't find the regions, the 50 states of the USA, matching anything remotely close to Canada. They're very, very strong constitutionally, and that means they're very strong financially for the people of said states. All of them. All of them. More than that, each state has its own military, and Texas has a very, very strong military. Russia's the same way with all their regions. It's why things break out in massive firepower, because Russia and USA have constitutionally shared that vision since World War II. They empower their regions. That's why I need the regional constitutions from Russia, and I will do whatever it takes to get that. And I'm not going to get boggled down into any wars that Russia may get into, and I'm not going to get involved in USA either, except to give the legal truth and legal speak in the international law as it really is, everybody. So that was my day. These are major updates. I know a lot of people may think not important. It most certainly is. I want to answer a question from Dan Skeeman. He asks me about changing boundaries. Could there be a vote of independence from the treaty lands of BC to join Alberta? The answer is, Dan, is the same as what I talked about in this video at the start with Richard Albert on Indigenous sovereignty, self-government, and settlement of the claims. No, it can't happen, but it can happen by the Crown through absolutely Prime Minister, Governor General, the Premiers, and Lieutenant Governor, which ultimately means by the Prime Minister solely. They've done it many times in Canada's history. Ontario and Quebec took much in treaty land from what was the Northwest Territory, which was all treaty land, which is absolutely all of Alberta, all of Saskatchewan, all of the former Northwest Territory, and said